Lamp, and this is Orlando Toyama-ryu Iaido. I know some of you, most of you are not dealers, right? The public? Okay. We are an organization, a dojo, from Bob Elder Sensei. About 30 years ago, Elder Sensei, who was a member of Florida Tokenkai and ran the show, or started the show, about 10 years ago. So some of you know. He also, at the time, this was 1993, 1994, met Hataya Miso Sensei. I think it was at the Tampa Sword Show. And they became friends, and they're both collectors. We became a dojo associated with Hataya Sensei in Tokyo, Japan. So we now have dojos throughout Florida, Melbourne, Vero Beach, St. Pete, Claremont. We have an associated dojo in New York City and Minneapolis, St. Paul, all associated with, all stemming from what Bob Elder started about 30 years ago, and in association with Hataya Sensei. What we do is Iaido. Most Iaido doesn't do tamashigiri. This Toyama-ryu Iaido, we concentrate on tamashigiri, or cutting. So we're going to demonstrate a little kata. Kata is learning forms. It's either done alone or in pairs. We're going to do both. It's called kumitachi, a paired kata. And then we'll move on to the tamashigiri, which will be, we'll all do a little cutting demonstration. So is there any questions before I start? Oh, the aroma. See, no one said.
It really stinks in here, by the way. But this is RV Katana. We're in Orlando for the Orlando Sword Show right now.
Old tatami mats.
And
shipped from Japan. That's what they use in Japan. It's kind of a standard for competition. And although you can cut many things, bamboo.
If you could do us a favor, tap the screen a few times.
We use the old tatami mats, soaked until they get ripe. Right. You can't cut them dry. So we love the smell. So, but if anybody who's ever been to a farm, you know, knows that smell. So we love it. Just wanted to mention this.
So for those of you joining in, this is RV Katana. Currently in Orlando for the Orlando Sword Show, where they have tons of antique Japanese swords, and we'll be doing a tour of it later. But right now there's a Toyama-ryu demonstration, and they're going to be doing some kata and some cutting.
Great. Great. We're going to work from the beginning simple and up through the more complex and interesting. So,
So first senpai here is going to do Gunto Soho, which is the Toyama-ryu Military Academy versions of what we do now. So this is the place where our current kata came from. And then Antonio's going to do Toyama kata after that, and I'll briefly talk about the differences and why they exist. Not too in depth. I don't want to drive you guys crazy with detail. Anyway.
Yeah, I forgot to mention Paul Austin, Tom Andrews, Antonio February.
So once again, this is the Orlando Sword Show in Richmond, or in Orlando, obviously. And this is a Toyama-ryu demonstration.
Yeah, corners good.
You live? You live?
That's
Great standing.
If you could do us a favor, tap the screen a few times, give us a few likes, we'd appreciate it.
Hey! Hey! Yep. Hey! Hey!
Later on, there was 5, and then they made 2 more, magically added nowhere 2 more, so it's gonna do the other 2 more.
You can explain, maybe explain a little bit about
While I was doing that,
the difference.
these techniques were developed for, basically for trench warfare. There's a lot of people that have misconceptions about what the Japanese were thinking about issuing swords to their soldiers in World War II, predominantly officer corps. And sword is a weapon of last resort on a modern battlefield. So these techniques that you see, they're for going down alleyways. They're for abrupt, jump out, somebody jumps out, block them, cut them. 1, 2 kinds of things are very simple, utilitarian. And in this particular style, you'll notice when he does his noto, which is to put the sword away, there's nothing fancy. It's just done, boom, done. Everything is very, 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 very detailed, shrunk on purpose. It was a series of Japanese fencers at the time in the early 20s and 30s era that developed what became the Toyama Military Academy system for various reasons. There were problems in country in China where older style fencing techniques that had kind of boiled down over the devolution of the samurai era into less effective combat. So a group of guys were brought together to develop an effective, simple, easy to teach, easy to learn, easy to capitalize on trench warfare response system, hence Toyama-ryu.
So they simplified it by eliminating the chiburi.
Eliminating chiburi, eliminating any kind of extraneous extra stuff. Because of what they were going to be wearing in combat, they were not going to be wearing obi. So, all your gunto, as you know, are suspended. And those suspension systems can be lifted up and locked on edge up like katana, or they can be drawn as tachi. These kinds of things. Sometimes you can still see pictures people have of Nakamura Sensei wearing a training belt for Toyama-ryu that has 2 sleeves in it for your 2 swords. It holds them precisely in one position. Hence no saibiki, none of this kind of stuff, because they were using a military length weapon. So they didn't need to do saibiki straight out, straight back in. So much more utilitarian, much more tighter quarters kind of concept. So he's going to do the final 2 of that, and then he's going to do the modern era Toyama-ryu stuff.
Leap. Leap.
So that's Gunto Soho.
Made me think of, because you were asking why they simplified it earlier. Because, and we got a fun story with Tom, we did once at a demo. Different styles didn't always work, and they'd have fancy cut the tendon, nick a muscle, and you would surrender. And then they went and tried it somewhere else, and their enemy wouldn't surrender. They'd say, well, I still got another good arm, and they'd cut them with that. So they simplified, said, don't nick a tendon, don't nick a muscle, don't this, just cut the arm off, cut the leg off, cut the head off.
Oh my gosh.
And then we did a similar one with another style, and they had this really funky guy, and you nick the forearm tendon, and he can't hold his sword, so he's supposed to surrender, and then he submits his head, and Tom just wanted to screw with the guy he was trained with, so you just step off the side, and you come in behind his neck, and the guy's like, no, it's not supposed to go that way. And Tom's like, yeah, well, I'm trying to kill you, so that's what I'm doing. So, but that's why it's just no fancy nick a tendon, no fancy nick a muscle, no minor injuries where they just go, I am defeated. It's just take something off, kill them. Are they dead? That's all I care about.
In addition to that, it's also military style, so we only have X amount of time to train the officers, to then train the unenlisted personnel. So you want to train them effectively, simple, effective actions. But that's why it's simplified. But they all, the committee had Koto, it all came from Koto rules. So, and then the committee came up with the best, most effective rules. Theoretically.
Lots of old styles, their kata had names like flowing to the wind or something this, and their kata are named for things. And ours is like, number 1, the attacker's right there. Number 2, the attacker's right there. Number 3, the attacker's right there. There's no special name. Question.
When you were talking about the Gunto, you said that there was a military length. How many shaku on average is a Gunto?
I'm not shaku expert, but it's going to be 2 point something. I think it'll be 2.35.
Yeah, 235, 24.
Yeah, 26 and 1/8 inches is the standard.
Oh, thank you.
Some of them are 25, rarely 24, almost all of them 26, a few 27s. Once in a while 28, And if you're lucky,
Me
you find the Imperial Guard sword that's had tag on it. And then buy that. Don't tell anybody. Yes. So, after World War II, obviously there was a ban on doing martial arts in Japan for a period of time. We're going to skip all of that. It was a time. It happened. After the ban was lifted, martial arts became practicable again in Japan. Some of these people that had learned all these things got together and developed Toyama-ryu, Nakamura-ryu, various Ruha. And what they did was they took the scaffolding of Gunto Soho and they wove back in the more Japanese traditional stuff back into it, i.e. Noto, Chiburi, these kinds of things, a little more elongated movement, a little more presentation style, a little more drama, if you will, much like Kata. So, they're not dramatically different, but you'll see they are different. So he's going to do 1%.
Right. Go. Right. Go. Right. Right. Go.
I need to check out my hotel room. All this recording.
Right. Go. Hold.
My phone has a stabilizer.
Right.
little more formal, a little more elongated, a little more time between movement, more, more Ghibli style, step into it, more dramatic, more aesthetically Japanese, and less utilitarian and military. Still very simple, straightforward. There's lots of sword styles in the world that are still practiced to this day. This is considered modern Budo. It's not a code. That's Toyama-ryu.
And on that, I can just say after World War II, and the ban was lifted on practicing Japanese martial arts, the first time the public was actually encouraged to keep them alive. The public was actually encouraged to participate for the first time. Before it was just samurai and the military. The jitsu became do. And it happened in karate, do, judo, aikido, was aikijitsu, and iai-jitsu became aikido. More thankfully, and because thankfully, we don't need anymore to fight and kill each other with swords. Not that it doesn't ever happen, but it's 150 years ago it was a necessity. Now it's no longer. So we're not practicing for that anymore. All right. Getting a little deep. The enemy is now not external, but the enemy is internal. We're controlling ourselves, our minds, our bodies, and hopefully uplifting and building up ourselves so as not to fight, but to improve ourselves. So that's that go. So cutting, Kamishigiri?
We're going to do Kumitachi first.
That's right. So one stand. All right, we'll set up for that. Any questions in the meantime?
Hey all, for those of you just joining in, this is John from RVA Katana, usually in Richmond, Virginia, but today we're at the Orlando Sword Show in Orlando, Florida. Antique sword show, but we are currently watching a Toyama-ryu demonstration. They're about to do some cutting. They just did kata, which are forms, and now it looks like they are going to be doing some cutting, which should be fun. So anyway, yeah.
Sort of taking on that. So, yeah.
If you do us some favor and tap the screen a few times, give us a few likes, we'd appreciate it.
And so we are using Shinken. Beginning students start out with an Iaito, which is still dangerous, but it's not razor sharp. More advanced Shinken. We use Shinken in kata as well as cutting. Yeah.
Just wanted to ask a question about the differences in the Chuden Openai from the two different styles we just saw. Is there a reason that Miyazaki was so much more like raised up in the second set?
After the demo, you can talk to Tamarai. We can give you the details on what the movements are for, if we even know.
So once again, this is RVA Katana in Richmond, Virginia, that we are in Orlando, Florida for the Orlando Sword Show. And this is the Toyama-ryu about to do some tameshigi. I always wonder why so many people post negative things. I mean, why don't you do something better with your life? Just saying. I mean, let people enjoy what they're doing. Don't be a dick, you know?
Okay. Make sure you got enough room. Maybe a tiny bit this way.
Yeah, a little bit. This is coach, not much. Good.
That was pretty cool. these are real live blades.
Hey! Ready? Up!
So yeah, they were using real live blades to do kumitachi, which is pair work. That's pretty scary. I'm impressed.
Okay, set up for a basic, we're gonna go
It's not to say that I
basic
haven't chopped things next to me.
cutting. Any questions on that? Pretty much self-explanatory. We will. A little bit different. A little bit different.
There's definitely something to be said about using a tarp under your cutting stand. Make cleaning up a lot easier. Too pop, if it's slow and boring, don't watch. No one's asking you to stay.
Yeah.
Call that the Toyama screw.
Jonathan Dale Harvey, they're definitely not using 440 stainless. Those would break. They're very poor quality for swords. They're very pretty, but they snap easily. I know that Tom over here is using a Motohara SGT mat cutter. Super nice sword.
And then, of course, Suihei, which is straight across. There's a fairly limited amount. And for competitions, our competitions, you're rated on that 45 degree angle. Distance and the flatness of your cuts, as well as your form and other things.
I know Tom's katana is made of SGT, which is a type of Japanese tool steel. That's Tom right there.
Make sure the page is in. Wires were on the second row.
Remember that guy Gallagher? You might get spray. Okay.
Watermelon comes out of the top.
So, Antonio's going to do the basic cuts first and show kesa, which is where you begin. So it's 45-degree angles, you change your footing, 45-degree angle, this is where all of us started. This is the building block to every other cut that we have. And after he does that, he's going to show the evolution of that to another style, another kind of cut. this is broken out here. 6 cuts. You'll see changes there.
God, it stinks.
You can see this is basic cut, and then the top of the basic food chain. Cut is one. Cut is another. Cut is the third. And what I'll do is all 3 of those together.
Once again, this is Toyama-ryu at the Orlando Sword Show.
It's a progression. So we're going to cut. Okay. So Paul's going to do more of a middle ground cut called Sabame, and a cut called Inazuma.
Imagine that's a pretty tough one.
Where are you going to sit?
Fun fact, what Antonio did the Rokudan, that was for a longest time our standard starting Shodan test for lowest rank. For Seizankai, our Japanese sensei's dojo, it's still the first level test, and his standards for failing are so high that all 5 cuts for the first ones have to be 45 degrees. Suihan has to be perfectly flat. If it's off by more than 5 degrees, you might pass if it's only on 1 cut. If you screw up 2 cuts, you fail, and you get to hear the next time, which means next year. And there are people who've taken that test for 12 plus years and they still haven't passed. So it is without a doubt the hardest one to get past.
By stark contrast, when he took his second Dan Seizenkai test, he had never done all of the cuts in one sequence ever. Shows up. What's next? What's next? It's the most incredible test any of us. We're like, who are you and what you do with our friend Paul?
I got more dirty looks that day.
I'm sure you did. And what was he smoking?
No, he won't tell us.
Lightning will not strike twice though, so. Tsubame. And let's see. And yes, we still scroll. That's okay.
So again, Sabame is a building block cut as well. Boom, bam. Boom, bam. That same dynamic, 1, 2, like boxing.
Let's see if we do a little better.
Trying to put 2 cuts together in rapid succession, and then 3 cuts together.
So this cut's called Inazuma, which means lightning. And it's the same thing, 1, 2, 3. Or 1, 2, 3, whichever way you want to do it. There's also Yaku Inazuma from the bottom up. Same thing, same pace, same reason.
Once again, this is RVA Katana, usually in Richmond, Virginia. The shop is open today in Richmond, Virginia. Scott's there. But this is John. I'm over at Orlando, Florida for the Sword Show, where we have a bunch of awesome antiques, plus this demonstration by the Toyama-ryu group. Local Toyama-ryu. I just
Eastern
realized they
time
use
is
the.
always inconsistent. So that's how life is. You know, life. So you have to react to it sometimes. Sometimes you're doing one cut, and then you can see another cut, and you can, you can react to it.
Switch up real quick.
Switch it up. It's just like life. Life comes at you, you have to adapt to it. I'm sorry? Sure. I think I'm going to do these at a slight angle. Huh?
Tom's going to do for us more advanced cuts than what I did, and most of those are usually going to involve a first cut down low and then a follow cut up high. But he has to make the first cut and then do the second cut before this can actually fall over. Let it be a mystery as to what he cuts.
So I'm going to do colostomy.
Nice.
This cut is called Kasumi. This is the last cut that Elder Sensei taught me how to do before he left town. It's more difficult than it looks.
Nice. That is a very difficult cut. You can get a perfect horizontal cut on both of those, but still, it's a very difficult.
It's supposed
So
to be
it's
straight,
pretty awesome.
so don't clap too hard.
I wouldn't know.
Equal distance after this point, so the two pieces on the ground are the same size, but this is not straight. So a Thai sensei would say,
Next time. So it looked impressive. Thai Kai, he could win with that in a competition, but if his sensei was here from Japan, he'd be like, fail.
These things are using a lot. So you don't want to.
Once again, this is RVA Katano, but currently in Orlando, Florida.
Oh, yeah.
you don't know what he's doing. It is not, he doesn't tell. It's a secret.
But-
He doesn't say anything. It's what we call Chuden, secret teaching.
Kodak. This is a large lockout, but it is.
Yeah, that's all we have. I'm gonna go and check out my hotel room, but we will go live later.